Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mr. Wiz here. If you are new to this channel, we build games. Right now we're working our way through the Unity program known as the FPS Microgame, where we're learning how to use Unity software. This is one of the beginner lessons that I do with my 8th grade class, although you can do it for high school, of course, and college levels as well. So we've been building the microgame, and I've been showing you guys different ways that you can edit this game. This video is going to be all about customizing and even creating your own firearms. So the FPS Microgame is a sci-fi game that is available in the Unity Hub for multiple different versions. I'm using the 2022 version, but even the older versions have it as well in the learning section. And it is a game that is designed to be a sci-fi game where you're shooting robots and you're using sci-fi weapons. So what I wanted to do today was really show you guys how to create your own weapons, change them up completely if you wanted to. When I did this game, instead of using sci-fi weapons, I created realistic pistols and shotguns is how I did it the first time I made this game. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do those sort of changes. So of course, the first thing you're going to want to do is to find some models that you want to use for your firearms. So once again, the Unity Asset Store is your best friend when it comes to this stuff. So here I just did a search for guns. I'm going to pricing. I'm switching it to free. And then I can find lots of packs here with free guns. I could also probably limit my search to just 3D stuff here, since this is a 3D game. So here's some of the stuff I'm finding. There's 143 options for downloads for 3D guns. Some of these look pretty unique. Here's some stylized guns, right? Some of these look pretty realistic. This is the pack that I'm going to be using today because I've downloaded it in the past and it's worked pretty well for me. It's just a simple gun pack that has multiple different types of weapons that are realistic weapons. There's a lot here and there's multiple pages, so you'll want to decide what looks good for you. Maybe you want to go more sci-fi, maybe you want to go more realistic. It's really up to you. We're also going to be doing audio. So let me go back to the audio section. Instead of 3D, I could do audio and download some sound effects here too. So this is the pack I'll be using today. It has a bunch of sound effects, including some gun sounds, because we're going to be putting realistic gun sounds into our game. So lots of stuff there that we're going to be playing around with, and I'm going to show you guys how to do all of that. So in your program, once you've got your stuff downloaded from the Asset Store, it may ask you to open it in Unity, and if it does, you can go ahead and do that. If it doesn't, you can find it by going to Window, Package Manager, and then all of your downloads will be here. So I just did a little search by going up here to the magnifying glass, and I can just type in weapon or gun and it will pop up. So here we go. So I'm going to be downloading the low poly gun pack. So we'll be using this as our model for the weapon that I'm going to be creating. And then we, of course, do have to import it. Then I'm also going to download the sound effects. And I've decided for this one, I'm going to create a weird gun. I'm not going super realistic this time. I want to create a shotgun that throws daggers. I'm going kind of post-apocalyptic with this, and I thought it would be funny to make a weird gun that has a weird ability. So I did also download, and I haven't used this yet, I downloaded this pack for melee weapons. Hopefully this works well for me. I've never used this one before. But yeah, I'm going to make a shotgun that shoots daggers. And I do also need to download the sound pack. I don't see that right now when I did a search for weapons. So let me change the name of my search so I can find those sound effects as well. Once it finishes downloading these weapons here. There we go. Let's do a search for gun and see if I can find that sound pack. Here it is. So we're going to import this into my program as well. So those are what I'll be using for the edits that I'm making today. All right, so you can make a gun from scratch, just putting all the pieces together. But honestly, I think that takes more time. I find it easier just to take to one of the prefabs they have and edit it. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. I'm going to be editing a pre-existing prefab to whatever changes I want to make, and we'll talk about those as we do that. In one of the previous videos, I did show you guys that you can edit weapons. So if you go to all prefabs and then go down to where it says weapons, these are the pre-made weapons. There's 3 different ones. There's the blaster, there's the launcher, and there is the shotgun. So you can edit any of these simply by changing their stats. And there's a lot of stats you can change. So you can certainly just edit one of these if you want to, but I'm going to actually create something brand new. So to create a brand new weapon, you would right-click on one of these pre-existing weapon prefabs, and then you would choose to duplicate. Hold on, I don't see duplicate. Okay, since duplicate doesn't show up there, let's do it a different way. I can simply click on it, and once it's selected, I can do Control D on my keyboard. Control D, there we go, and I just duplicated it. So now I have a second weapon, and this one's called Weapon Shotgun 1. It is a copy of the one called Weapon Shotgun. I am going to change the name, though. So let me go ahead and open this one up. I double click on it to open it. What should I call it? Instead of Weapon Shotgun, let's call it Weapon... I'm going to call it Weapon Knife Thrower, because that's going to be what I want it to do. All right, down here where it says Weapon Name, I should also change this so it's less confusing for the program. You don't want to have two guns with the same name. So I'm going to call it Knife Thrower. I'm not sure if it'll work with spaces or not, so I'm going to do it with no spaces. In coding, when in doubt, it's better to not have spaces in names. Okay. So let's go ahead and start customizing it. So right now, the first thing we see is that it's using the existing shotgun model, and I want to use mine. So when I downloaded it, it should have put it in here. Now I just need to figure out where this new shotgun is. Is it in the prefab section, or is it in the model section? I don't see any of the new guns in there, so it's probably in the model section. Well, there's a knife. Where are the guns? If I knew the name, I could do a search for it. Okay, so here's some pistols and what have you. All right. So I'm looking for something that looks like a shotgun. There's a shotgun. Okay, so there's two of them. There's that one and there's that one. Let's do this one. All right, so I want to replace this gun with my shotgun. So here's what I'm going to do. Over here, where I'm looking at the stats for it. Why does it still say Shotgun 1? I changed the name. Did it not save? Did it not save my change? Save. I changed the name, gosh darn it. I called it Weapon Knife Thrower. You must have not saved the name. All right. There we go. Weapon Knife Thrower. Okay. So over here inside of my new weapon called Weapon Knife Thrower, it has all the different pieces that make up the gun. The important pieces are these two, gun root and gun muzzle. Gun muzzle is essentially where the projectile comes out of. And the gun root is everything else. So inside the gun root, we have the weapon mesh. This is what we're looking at when we see the gun. This is what people see. So essentially, I'm going to be replacing this with that prefab, with that model that was called Shotgun. All right, looks like I'm having a hard time finding it again. Let me just do a search. Shotgun. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to drag my shotgun model, and I'm going to put it next to, basically, I'm going to put it inside gun root. That's going to be the easiest way. So I'm just going to drop it inside of the gun root, and now it's putting it in the same place where the weapon mesh is. You're going to notice right away, it is significantly bigger. It is also in the wrong position. So I'm going to have to make some changes to this to fit my game a little bit better. So I'm going to use the tools that I have, my move tools and my scale tools, to make some adjustments here. So I'm going to try to get it about the same size and in about the same position as the original gun. So let me go ahead and shrink it with the scale tool. With the scale tool, you can shrink one particular direction, but I'm going to use the middle box, which allows me to shrink everything together at the same time. So I need to decide how big I actually want this to be. So I'm trying to line up the triggers here a little bit. Should I go a little bit bigger with that? Maybe. A little bit of experimenting with this, right? It's hard to say exactly what's going to look best. That's pretty good. So I'm experimenting with it, trying to get it around the same size for what would make sense for this. Okay, that's pretty close. So I've got the gun around the size I want it, around the position that I want it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click back on where it says weapon mesh pistol. And instead of deleting it, I don't want to delete it. I could delete it, but I don't want to because I might need to come back and look at it again, right? So rather than deleting it, I'm just going to turn it off. Over here in the inspector, where it says weapon mesh pistol, I can click on that checkbox and it disappears, almost like it doesn't exist. It's still technically in my code and I can turn it back on whenever I want to, but it's no longer there where I can visibly see it. So let's click on the arrow to go back. We're going to save the changes. Prefab name must match the prefab root game object. I did change the name. Yes, rename the file. Okay. So let's take a look at that. Oh, that was the shotgun. I put that on. So I do need to put the shotgun in my game so I can take a look at it. So there's the player. Let's go ahead and give him a shotgun. So I'm going to go to the prefabs and go to the pickup section. Pick up shotgun. And I need to change that because we made a new weapon. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to duplicate this. Control D to duplicate. And for this new one, pickup shotgun 1 is what I automatically called it. I can rename it later. When it says weapon prefab, the one that is picking up, I need to switch this for the weapon that I made. So instead of weapon shotgun, we are going to put in there the weapon knife thrower. So I'm going to drag that and put that right there. Okay. So now let's put that pickup object that I made, which I've already lost. I've got too much stuff in my game. Here it is. I drag that and put that right there. It still looks like the old gun, but if I did this correctly, it should change the new gun once we pick it up. Yep, there's my new gun. Okay. So it does work, and in my opinion, it does look like it's about the appropriate size. It's got a real slow reload, but I can edit that, right? Okay, so let's go back to editing the gun. So, weapon knife thrower. Here we go. So obviously everything is gray right now. There's no material on this weapon. So that's a quick and easy fix. I can just go to all materials and put on there whatever materials I want, right? So I can just use a simple steel looking one, which is a material called gun, which I already had. And that actually looks decent. I like that. But I do have other materials I could try if I really wanted to. All right, so we've got the shotgun. If we go over here to the stats, we've got here where it has the root and the muzzle, which is important. My muzzle didn't quite line up with the edge of this gun. So since this gun is obviously longer than the other one, it would make sense if I moved the muzzle to the end of it. That'll just make it a little bit more realistic with where it's shooting from, right? Okay, let's see what other stuff we want to change. Shoot type. For a shotgun, manual makes sense. If you're doing like a machine gun, you'd want to change this to automatic, right? Projectile prefab. So this part we will be changing in a minute. You can select different projectile prefabs. So let me go to the prefab section and do a little search for projectile, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. These are the projectiles that are currently designed for the different weapons that are in this game. But we can make our own and use it here, and we will do that in a few moments. Delay between shots. So this is going to be an important factor. The minimum duration between two shots. Bullet spread angle. So when you're doing a shotgun, you want there to be a big spread, right? If you're doing something like a sniper gun, you would probably want this at 0. Bullets per shot. So how many projectiles is it shooting? So all of this is important. The recoil force, how much does it kick back? The aim ratio. So the aim ratio is for aiming. If you haven't noticed yet, inside the game, if you right click, it does this little zoom. You guys seen that? If I use the right mouse, I can zoom in and kind of aim. And it does that with all the weapons. So with my shotgun, I can aim down like that, right? So if you change the aim offset, the aim zoom ratio, that's what I meant. The aim zoom ratio, it affects how much you zoom in. So if I wanted to zoom in a lot, I would actually make it smaller. And then I can go back in. Let's save those changes. Now I'm going to get that shotgun. I'm going to press 2 to pick it up. I'm going to right click and it zooms in even more than it did before. So it's a more powerful zoom when it's a smaller number. So if you're doing something like a sniper rifle, you want it to be a pretty tiny number when you're making those changes. All right. So other things we can change about this new weapon. Let's see. Clip size. So how much ammo does it have? Automatic reload. So there's all sorts of stuff here you can play around with to make your gun the way you want it to. Oh, here we goes with our sound effects. So the shotgun shot is the sound it makes when you shoot, and then the pickup weapon is the sound you make when you pick it up. So these are all our audio clips right here. So we can change those if we go to, because I think I downloaded the audio, didn't I? Where did the audios go that I downloaded? I'm not sure what file they're in, but we should be able to right-click here, and these are all the different sounds that I have. So if I wanted to change the sound of the shotgun to something else, I just simply switch it here, right? So I've got magic spells, I've got lasers, I've got all sorts of fun. Here's some handguns, which is more like a popping noise, right? So all sorts of stuff here that I could change it to. Explosions. Ooh, explosion might be nice. So yeah, you can change the sound effects there with your firearms. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the part where we're throwing knives. So I'm going to go to the prefab projectile section. And we're going to do similar to what we did before. And we're going to duplicate one of these projectiles. So this is the one that was actually designed for the original shotgun. So let's just change this one. So I'm going to do Control D to duplicate it. There we go. And let's go ahead and open this one up. And I'm going to rename it Projectile Knife. All right. And then, like before, we're going to go ahead and put our knife in there. So let me go back to the models. Was there any knives in the prefabs? Here, let's just do a search for knife. I think I saw a bunch of them. So there's combat knife. There's all sorts of other ones. So some of these actually have materials that aren't working. I can probably fix that. So let me go to the combat knife material that's not working. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to Edit, Rendering, Materials, Convert, cross my fingers, and hope it works. Looks like it didn't work. Oh well, sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, so since the materials aren't working, it must be a higher graphics than what this project currently has. I'm just going to use the basic one right here. So I want to drag and drop this into my projectile knife. I want you to notice there's already a mesh projectile right here. That's for the blue laser, right? So this is the blue laser, which we're going to be turning off in a minute like we turned off the gun. The tip, we do not want to turn off, though. That tip is actually important. The tip is the part that, when it hits an enemy, it does damage. So we still need to have a tip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tip, and I'm going to move it and put it inside of the knife. So now the tip is part of the knife and not part of this blue laser, which I'm about to turn off. Boom. All right. So my gun, I'm sorry, not my gun, my knife, looks like it's way over there. Let's take a look at that up close. Oh, it's also stretched funny. I don't love that. So the original projectile right here is also stretched funny. You see where it says scale 1:110? No, thank you. We're going to do a scale 1:1:1. There we go. All right. Now we are going to make some changes to our knife, probably rotate it in a way that we think looks better. So let's rotate this around. I'm going to point it this way. Let's go with a -90 for that. And I want to rotate it forward. And we'll do negative 90 for that. You see how I'm kind of just rounding the number that was there? Negative 94 is what it gave me. Negative 90 is just going to be a little bit more clean. All right. Now it's pretty small. I don't know if that's a good size for it or not. We'll have to see when we start shooting it. But let's go ahead and move the tip. So the tip was not lined up with it very well. Why is the tip all the way over there? Oh, did I not rotate my knife in the right direction? Let me turn the original projectile back on. So the original projectile is right there. Okay. Yeah, let's fix this. So we're going to put the tip at the front of the knife. So we're definitely going to have to move this around a lot. I think what happened is I think I just moved the tip too soon. I should have rotated the knife first and then moved the tip. That would have made more sense. Okay, so we want it to be lined up with the front of the knife. So let's go ahead and do that right quick here. I'm going to check it from some different angles, because that's the part that does the damage, is the front of the knife. Looks pretty close. I think I should probably match the X direction, which is the red one, with the actual model. So with the model, the X position is 0. So with the tip, the X position should also be 0. And it is. Good. The Y position is the green part. And it's okay if that's not perfectly matching the knife. And it's not. And the Z is good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's give it a material so the knife looks a little bit better. What material should we put on the knife? We want to make sure people can see it. Maybe something shiny. That's glass. That might be too shiny. It looks pretty cool, though. All right. So my projectile knife has been updated. Do you want to save the changes? Absolutely. Do we want to rename it? Yes, we do. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my shotgun that I made, the knife throwing gun. Here we go. Where it says projectile prefab, I'm going to replace that with the projectile we just made. So projectile knife is what I'm going to put in there. Boom. Now that shotgun should shoot knives. Let's do this. I couldn't really see them. Could you see them? All right. How should we change this so it's easier to see the knives that we're shooting? Is there anything in here that affects the speed of the projectile, I wonder? Doesn't look like it. Do you guys see anything that changes speed? See reload rate, see all that stuff? Okay. So I'm thinking we need to make the knife bigger. I'm thinking it's too small. So let's change the knife and make it larger with the scale tool. How much bigger should we make it? Maybe around there? Maybe around there? I'm noticing over here, that's around 3, so let's just make it an even 3 all the way across the board. So it's 3 times bigger than it was originally. All right. Will that help us be able to see it better, I wonder? A lot of this stuff is just going to be playing and testing. I still don't see it. Do you guys see it? Here, I know what I'll do. You can move stuff around in here. So I'm going to separate the scene view from the game view. So I'm going to put the scene view down here so I can see it in-game from the player perspective and from the programmer's perspective. This might help me. So I can actually see if it's shooting knives or not. So if I point over here towards where the camera is, and I shoot... Oh, I need to switch my... Is it shooting knives? Yes, it is. Okay, I can see it. They're just shooting so fast. All right. It is shooting knives, but they are shooting fast. Okay, so let's make some edits to make it more obvious that I'm shooting knives. Here's what I want to happen. When the knives hit the wall, I want them to fall down and hit the ground. So you can actually tell, oh, I just shot knives. That's what I'm going to go for. Okay, so I'm going to put the scene view back up here so that it's easier for me to see the stuff down here. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Let's go to the prefabs, to the original knife that we found. Let's edit this knife. Yeah, this one's a prefab. Let's edit this knife. Okay, so we are going to edit this prefab knife. Let's give it a material. This is a little bit of a complicated video, guys. But hey, hopefully you're learning something cool and you're having some fun doing it. All right, so we've got this knife. And what I'm going to do is I want this knife, when it hits a wall, to fall. So it already has a mesh right here in the default section. Because it is a prefab, it already has a mesh, but it does not have a collider. So let's go ahead and give it a mesh collider. This will mean that when it hits something, it stops, right? So we're giving it a mesh collider. I'm also going to give it something called rigid body. So rigid body allows it to have physics like gravity. So here you can see gravity is already turned on. And it has a mass of 1. I could always decrease that. In fact, I think I will. 1's pretty heavy. Let's go with like 0.1. Give a low mass. All right. So we're going to change that. Save those changes to the prefab. All right. Cool, cool, cool. And then I'm going to go back to the gun. Well, that's not the gun. That's not the gun. This is the gun. Okay. Where it has impact effect. Where was impact effect? Where was impact effect? Oh, that was in the projectile. That wasn't in the gun. That was in the projectile. All right. So in here, where it has impact visual effect, we're going to replace this with the knife we just customized and gave gravity to. So I'm going to drag that and drop it into the impact VFX. So basically what this means is when the bullet hits the wall, they're going to change and become one of these knives. So it's changing from a projectile to just a regular prefab that has gravity. I know, this is a little bit advanced. If this is too much for you, don't worry about it. All right, here we go. Pressing 2. I saw them. There they are, but they fell through the floor. Why'd they fall through the floor? They're also pretty tiny. I might need to make these bigger too. Ah! All right. So combat knife, let's change the scale to 3, 3, 3. Definitely easier to see them. Oh, I think the material I made them out of is making it hard to see because the material I made them out of is transparent. Why are they falling through the floor, though? I really don't get that part. I really don't get why they're falling through the floor. Is there a stat that I need to change about the projectile? Impact lifetime? Maybe it's one of these I need to change. What if I gave them a much longer lifetime? Would they last longer, or would they still fall through the floor? Still falling through the floor. Let's give it a different material so it's easier to see. Yeah, that's much easier to see. But why is it falling through the floor? What if I make what if I make it convex instead of concave? Will that help? Oh, I forgot to save it. Save. There they are. Haha. So now I have a shotgun that shoots daggers. Now I'm still having a hard time seeing them when they leave the gun because the prefab I didn't change. I need to change the material on the prefab and make it easier to see. So where was the prefab projectile? Right there. Okay. So let's change this to something that is easier to see. One of these blacks, probably. I think that's what I used on the other ones. There we go. All right. I think I finally have this working the way I wanted it to. Sometimes it's just a little trial and error, guys. All right. So I've got the shotgun. I switch over to it. I can shoot. I still wish you could see them better when they left the barrel, but oh well. It's still a dagger shotgun. This is cool. I still need to change the stats of this gun, though, because it only is letting me shoot like one time, and that's definitely not going to be very effective. It's got a very slow reload, but I'm not really worried about all that right now. Okay, here's one more thing I should probably look at with you guys. If you select the player in the hierarchy, and you scroll down to Player Weapon Manager, it shows starting weapon 1. You can change this by clicking on the arrow here. You can change the starting weapon. I had a student ask me about this the other day, and I forgot where it was. You can change the starting weapon. So if I wanted him to start with the gun that I just made, I would just simply have to put that prefab as the starting weapon, right? I can also have more than one starting weapon. So if I didn't want him to have to go find one, I could do it that way. The last thing I wanted to mention is the pickup over here. I didn't change the model on the pickup. So if I was to use this for that gun, I would probably want to go ahead and put that gun in here, right? So the weapon knife thrower would want to go inside, inside here and delete this one. Or I could have hidden it. I didn't have to delete it. Here, cancel. I don't like to delete things until I know for sure I don't need them. All right. So we'll just hide it with the check mark instead. Okay, save. So yeah, now my character starts with the shotgun, but if I wanted to leave it as a pickup, I could. With that right there, right? It's not picking up. Did I do something wrong? I might have. Let's go back to the pickup. Does the pickup need something else on there? Oh, it's just smaller. The collider's smaller. That's why it's not working. So since I'm using a much bigger gun, I would want to change the size of the collider. That's all. Okay, so obviously I haven't talked too much about colliders yet with you guys, but you can change the size right here where it says XYZ. So in this case, the Z needs to be larger. So maybe 3. Oh, that's too large. Yeah, maybe around there. 2 is a little on the short side. So yeah, I'll do 3. Okay. And that should allow you to pick it up when you walk over it. What we covered today is we covered how to edit a gun, how to build your own gun using models that you find, how to change the ammo, how to create something so when it hits a wall, it changes, the ammo changes into something that actually falls, which is kind of the cool effect, right? So a lot of stuff in this video that you can take if you want to. It's really all just for show. Does it change the game much? Maybe, maybe not. The real game changes have to do with the weapon settings, right? That's where you're setting how much ammo it shoots, the spread, all that stuff. The settings is really what's changing the game. Most of what I showed you in this video was changing the way the gun looks, not changing the way the gun acts. So a lot of that is just going to be playing around with those settings. You can also, I forgot to mention, you can also change the settings on the projectile. So in the projectile here, there is speed. There's speed. Haha. How did I not see that earlier? Let's change the speed of this knife. Instead of 150, what should we set the speed to, guys? Maybe just 50? Let's see what that looks like. Oh, I'm so glad I went back and looked at this. I knew there was a way to do it. How did I not see that earlier? All right. Yes. With the speed of 50, I can actually see them leave the gun. Oh, that's so much better. I'm so glad I saw that. Okay, so as I was saying, you can change the stats of a weapon, but you can also change the stats of a projectile. So here you've got things like the max lifetime we talked about, but you'd also change the speed. You can change the gravity. You can change the damage. Haha. So if my knives aren't doing enough damage, I just need to boost this up. So let's take a look at this now with some 20 damage daggers. Oh, now I've got a gun I'm proud of. Okay, finally. Let's shoot something. Boom. Boom. I still need to change the reload time. Reload time is really slow on this gun. But isn't that cool? You got all the daggers lying around. I'm still going to die. I am bad at my own game. All right, so as I was saying, most of this was just for looks, but you can change the stats of the projectile and you can change the stats of the gun, and that's really going to be what affects the game. And I, of course, did a funny shotgun here, but you can create sniper rifles this way. You can create machine guns this way, just by changing the way it looks, changing the stats, and having a lot of fun doing it. Don't forget, you can also change the sound effects like I showed you, right? So I hope you're able to make some really cool weapons this way to put in your FPS micro game. This is the end of the video. If you learned something new, click that like button. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And don't forget to tell other people about this channel so that they can come and learn some fun stuff too. All right, I'll see you guys next time.